In the picturesque countryside of Australia, a young Margot Robbie grew up in a quiet town where life moved at a slower pace. The streets were lined with modest homes, and everyone knew everyone. Margot, however, dreamed of something much bigger. Even as a child, she felt the pull of the stage, the desire to perform, and to tell stories that could make people laugh, cry, or even dream. Her passion for acting wasn't just a hobby, it was her escape, her outlet, and her hope. But in a town where practicality ruled, dreaming big wasn't encouraged. Classmates would often mock her ambitious dreams, whispering behind her back, "Does she think she's Hollywood material?" But Margot wasn't the type to give up. Despite the snickers and side eyes, she enrolled in a community theater production, determined to show the world, or at least her small town, that she was born for the spotlight. Little did Margot know the stage where she planned to prove herself would become the site of a night she would never forget, a night that would test her courage and shape her future. The weeks leading up to her performance were grueling. Margot practiced her lines tirelessly, sometimes late into the night. She rehearsed in her room, in the mirror, and even in the fields near her home, her voice echoing into the quiet countryside. Finally, the big night arrived. The tiny theater was packed, not with fans, but with townsfolk curious to see the bold young girl who dared to dream. Among the audience were her classmates, sitting together in the front row, whispering and giggling. Margot could feel their eyes on her, the weight of their judgment pressing down. When the curtain rose, she took a deep breath and stepped into the spotlight. The audience fell silent as Margot began to deliver her lines. Her voice was steady, her presence commanding. For a moment, she felt invincible. But then it happened, a burst of laughter from the front row. Her classmates couldn't hold back their mocking snickers, their whispers loud enough to pierce the silence. Margot faltered for a split second, her confidence shaken. But instead of breaking down, she pushed forward, channeling her emotions into her performance. She wasn't just acting anymore, she was proving a point, but the night wasn't done testing her. As Margot neared the climax of her monologue, she caught sight of something she didn't expect. Her mother quietly getting up and leaving the theater. Her heart sank. Was she embarrassed? Disappointed? Margot tried to stay focused, but the sting of her mother walking out during her big moment was impossible to ignore. The mocking laughter of her classmates faded into the background as Margot's thoughts spiraled. Had she failed? Had all her efforts been for nothing? As the curtain fell and the applause filled the room, it felt hollow. Her classmates were clapping out of politeness, not genuine appreciation. And her mother. She wasn't even there to see the end. That night, Margot returned home in silence, locking herself in her room. She replayed every moment of the performance, questioning what went wrong. Sitting on the edge of her bed, tears rolled down her cheeks as she clutched the crumpled script in her hands. For a 12-year-old girl, it felt like the dream she had fought so hard to protect was slipping away. The next morning, Margot lingered in her room, her thoughts racing. She couldn't shake the image of her mother walking out of the theater. Did she not believe in her? Did she think Margot wasn't good enough? When she finally mustered the courage to sit down at the kitchen table, her mother was already there, quietly sipping her tea. Margot hesitated before asking, "Why did you leave last night?" Or her voice trembled, a mix of hurt and fear. Her mother paused, placing her mug down carefully, her eyes filled with tears as she looked at Margot. "I didn't leave because I was disappointed," she said softly. "I left because I couldn't stop crying. Watching you up there, so brave, so talented, it overwhelmed me. I didn't want to embarrass you in front of everyone." Margot froze, her breath catching in her throat. The words hit her harder than any criticism ever could. Or her mother hadn't walked out because of shame. She had left because of pride. Tears welled up in Margot's eyes as the weight of her doubt melted away. For the first time, she realized that even in the face of ridicule, she had reached someone. Her performance had mattered, and that someone was the person she cared about most. In that moment, Margot knew her dreams weren't foolish. They were worth fighting for. Years passed, and Margot's life changed dramatically. From small auditions in local productions to eventually landing a role in a major Hollywood film, her journey was anything but easy. Rejection followed rejection, and for every small victory, there were countless setbacks. Yet each time she faced doubt, Margot thought back to that tiny stage in her hometown, the place where she stood alone against whispers and laughter, determined to prove she belonged. Hollywood welcomed her, but Margot never forgot her roots. She kept that little town in her heart, the dusty roads, the tiny community theater, and even the mocking classmates who had shaped her resilience. One day, as she reflected on how far she had come, an idea struck her. She decided to return to that stage, not as a struggling girl trying to prove herself, but as a Hollywood star ready to inspire. But this wouldn't just be a homecoming, it would be a celebration. She planned a surprise event, inviting the entire town. The old theater, once small and unremarkable, was now the center of attention. Banners hung from its walls and flowers lined the aisles. As people poured in, they buzzed with excitement, curious to see what Margot had planned. For her, this wasn't just about revisiting the past, it was about showing her town and herself how far she had come. As the event unfolded, Margot shared her journey, recounting the challenges she faced and the lessons she learned along the way. The audience listened intently, but one face stood out, a classmate who had mocked her all those years ago. Their expression was a mix of guilt and nervousness. After Margot's speech, the classmate mustered the courage to approach her. "Margot," they began hesitantly, "I need to apologize. Back then, we laughed because we were jealous. You dared to dream when we didn't even know how." Margot looked at them for a moment, then smiled warmly. "We were all kids trying to figure things out," she said. "What matters now is that we grow from it." Her words were not just forgiveness. They were a reflection of how far she had come. The interaction was brief but powerful, a reminder that even the hardest moments can lead to growth and understanding. Margot then invited the children of the town onto the stage, handing them the microphone one by one. "Tell me your dreams," she encouraged. At first they were shy, but soon voices filled the air. Aspiring actors, scientists, doctors, and even an artist who wanted to design movie sets. Margot listened intently, her heart swelling with pride. This wasn't just about her journey anymore, it was about planting seeds of hope for the future. The same stage that once witnessed her struggles now stood as a symbol of possibility and courage for the next generation. It was a full circle moment, one that she hoped would inspire others to chase their dreams, no matter how impossible they seemed. As the night came to an end, the theater emptied, leaving Margot alone on the stage. She looked out at the rows of empty seats, the memories of her younger self flooding back. The laughter, the doubts, the tears, they were all part of her story. Margot walked to the center of the stage and stood in the spotlight one last time. She whispered to herself, "This is where it all began." A quiet smile spread across her face as she turned off the lights. Leaving the theater in peaceful darkness, it wasn't just a building anymore. It was a place where dreams were born and reborn, including her own. And so, Margot Robbie's journey came full circle. From a small-town girl ridiculed for her dreams to an international star inspiring others, her story is a testament to resilience, forgiveness, and the power of believing in oneself. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories like this one.